Hi there, thanks for checking out my repair tip today. Today's tip is on how to replace a broken cable connector on the back of your TV set. And one of the most things I really stress here is safety. So make sure you get your safety glasses on. And what we're going to be doing is replacing the antenna connector with a 45 watt soldering iron that came from Radio Shack. Today I will be using the following tools: a screwdriver, a file, safety glasses, needle nose pliers, solder wick, and of course a soldering iron, and a C-clamp and wire cutters. This is the connector that I use, part number 215543, made by Thomson Consumer Electronics. They're also the same ones that made RCA and GE. I got my connector from andrewselectronics.com. Now I have a Radio Shack 40 watt soldering iron that will be just hot enough to do the job. Anything lower just won't cut it. Very carefully inspect the board where the tuner meets the main board to make sure there are no cracks. If there are cracks, stop right there and take it to your local TV repairman. Now if there are no cracks, go ahead and carefully remove the shield on the tuner where we're going to solder the new connector on. Once again, doing another inspection with a magnified view, looking at all the surface mount components. Those are the objects that are the small rectangles like blue and yellow and white. Unfortunately, if they're damaged, the tuner might have to be replaced. Now what I'm doing here is modifying the cable connector so it will fit the TV. What I'm going to do is take the tabs off very carefully, then go ahead and file them down. The reason for this is most manufacturers simply do not supply the cable connectors. They do not want them replaced. They just want you to replace the entire tuner. So it's actually cheaper if it can be done to simply replace it. And I found out one of the few places that actually supply the connector is Thomson Consumer Electronics. Now I'm going to cut the connector right at the 90-degree angle bend there, simply because if I were to straighten it out, the length would be too big, and plus it won't fit in the holes. So I have to cut it down, and what I will do is solder a wire onto it so I can fit it through the small hole, then go ahead and solder it through the PC board. The wire that I found was really too thick, so I'm only going to use 3 strands and just wrap it up so it will fit through the hole. I made a small loop with the wire that I will now attach to the connector, then crimp on with the needle nose pliers, and go ahead and proceed to solder it. And once I'm done with that, I'll be all ready to go ahead and put it on and check it for size to see how everything will go, see if it'll be flush or not. After the solder cools down, I'm going to go ahead and bend the wire at a 90-degree angle and go ahead and cut the wire. Here is a magnified view of where the center pin of the cable connector will go through. What I'm going to do now is remove the solder really quick using the solder wick. Now for the fun part. What I'll do now is go ahead and thread the small wire through the tuner board where I just cleaned it up using the solder wick. It will take a little practice if you haven't done this before, but once you get it through the hole, everything will be fine. Then of course what I'm going to have to do is using my needle nose pliers, I'm going to have to bend the outside hole to make it flat so the cable connector will go on there without any problems. Then once I get it flat and straightened out, I'll go ahead and solder the cable connector on using a C-clamp to hold it in place. And once you solder it in place, just make sure you let it cool for about 5 minutes before you unhook the C-clamp. When bending this lightweight sheet metal on the tuner assembly, you just have to be really careful to make sure you don't damage any other components, and definitely go slow when you're doing this. I just applied the C-clamp and now got it all clamped down. And what I'm doing now is taking the soldering iron and trying to heat up the antenna connector or cable connector and get it as hot as possible while applying the solder. Then once it gets really hot, it will start taking the solder and it will flow. And what we need to do is go completely around in a circle. And of course, when we have a really good connection, you'll know it'll be really shiny. Just got to remember to go all the way around, and everything looks good. Now, the cable connector, part number 215543, I found out there are a lot of knockoffs out there that are really cheap. So, what you need to do is if you order one of those, um, find out if it's nylon or plastic in the center, because what you want are the nylon ones where it's a white plastic, and when you solder that on there it's not going to melt. But if you get one of those cheap knockoffs, it's going to be a clear plastic in the center and it's just going to melt, and unfortunately you just won't be able to screw your cable connector on there because they just melt. Now I'm going to solder on that center wire really quick using, of course, the soldering iron. Then once I get it on there, I will clip it off with the wire cutters, get it as flush or as close as possible to the PC board. Then make sure nothing is touching and nothing is shorting anything out. Then I will use a magnifying glass to inspect it closely to make sure none of the surface mount components have come off, because if they come off, chances are you won't be able to get those things back on because they are so small. Now everything looks good. Just check the connections, make sure everything looks good. Then go ahead and put the tuner shield back on the way it came off. Then that should complete your repair. If you're still having a snowy or staticky picture, then it's time to break down and take it to your local TV repair shop. Well, that was a fun job. I'd like to thank you for checking out my tech tip. And if you did find it useful in any way, shape, or form, please send me a donation, a few bucks or whatever you can spare. That will definitely help me out. Thanks again for watching my tech tip. Have a good day. Oh, boy. Squawk.